The Lion of Al-Hamra. The golden sun of Andalusia cast its first light over the red walls of Al-Hamra, the magnificent palace fortress that stood proudly upon the hills of Granada. Its towers caught the morning glow, shining like the crown of a kingdom that once ruled the world through wisdom, courage, and faith. The scent of orange blossoms filled the courtyards, where fountains whispered the verses of long-forgotten poets. But behind this beauty, the air was heavy with tension. The Christian armies from the north had been pushing closer every year. Granada, the last Muslim kingdom of Spain, was fighting for its very soul. Among its defenders stood a young warrior named Zayd ibn Tariq, known throughout the land as Zayd al-Hamra, the Lion of Al-Hamra. Zayd had been raised within the walls of the great palace. His father, Tariq, had been a scholar and commander under Sultan Abu Abdullah. From a young age, Zayd learned both the sword and the pen. He could recite the Quran beautifully, but his swordsmanship was unmatched among his peers. The people said that when Zayd trained, he moved like a falcon, swift, focused, and deadly. But despite his strength, Zayd was known for his humility. He often said, "The lion roars only for justice, not for pride." One morning, as the muezzin's call to prayer echoed through the palace halls, Zayd finished his salah and looked toward the horizon. Smoke rose from the distant hills. The enemy had burned another village. He clenched his fists. "They draw nearer each day," he murmured. Just then his closest friend Amin, a cheerful archer with quick wit and quicker arrows, entered. "You're watching the horizon again, brother. I know that look. You're not going to rest until you've done something about it." Zayd smiled faintly. "And you wouldn't let me go alone, would you?" Amin laughed. "Without me, who would make sure your grand speeches actually get heard? Let's see if the Sultan will finally let us ride." That afternoon, Zayd and Amin stood before Sultan Abu Abdullah, a weary man whose eyes had seen too much loss. The court was quiet, the air thick with uncertainty. "Sultan," Zayd began, bowing deeply. "The Christian army marches again from the north. They've crossed the river Genil. If we do not meet them in the valleys, they will reach the city within days." The Sultan sighed. "And what would you have me do, young lion? Our numbers are few. Our allies have deserted us. Even our people begin to lose hope." Zayd stepped forward. "Hope dies only when we let it, my Sultan. Give me a small force, 50 men, and I will strike their supply lines before they reach Granada. We can slow them down, maybe even turn them back." The Sultan studied him. 50 men against thousands? Zayd's voice was calm. 50 men who believe in Allah are stronger than 1,000 who fight for greed. A silence fell across the chamber. Then the Sultan nodded slowly. "Very well, Zayd al-Hamra. Take your men, and may Allah make your courage the wall that guards us all." The next dawn, Zayd led his small band of warriors into the mountains. Among them were Amin, old Commander Hamid, and young Rashid, a boy barely 16 who had begged to join them. As they rode through olive groves and rugged paths, Amin grinned. "You know, Zayd, if we die, at least we'll die with the best view in all of Andalusia." Zayd smirked. "Then fight well enough that you can still admire it tomorrow." They reached the valley by nightfall. Below them, the enemy camp burned torches like stars scattered on earth. Tents stretched across the fields, and carts of grain and weapons were piled high, the lifeblood of their invasion. Zayd raised his sword. "Tonight, we are the thunder that shakes their sky." And with that, they descended like shadows upon the camp. The attack was swift and fierce. Zayd's men moved like whispers in the dark, cutting through guards and setting fire to supply wagons. Amin's arrows struck with deadly precision. The enemy, taken by surprise, stumbled in chaos. As flames lit up the valley, Zayd found himself face to face with a towering knight, his armor shining crimson. The knight sneered, "So this is the lion they speak of." Zayd raised his blade. "And who are you to stand in the lion's path?" Their swords clashed, ringing through the night. Sparks flew, steel met steel. The knight fought brutally, but Zayd's movements were sharp and graceful, a deadly dance of faith and fury. With a final strike, Zayd disarmed him and placed his sword at the knight's throat. "Return to your king," he said. and tell him, Al-Hamra still has its lion. He let the man live, for mercy was the mark of true strength. As dawn approached, the valley smoked with burning supplies. Zayd's men returned to Granada victorious. Their raid had crippled the enemy's advance. The people of Granada cheered as they entered the gates. Children followed their horses, chanting, Allahu Akbar, the Lion of Al-Hamra returns. Zayd dismounted humbly. Praise belongs only to Allah, he said softly, but even victory could not last. Weeks later, the enemy regrouped, larger and more determined. They surrounded Granada, cutting off food and water. The once vibrant city fell silent, its fountains dry, its gardens wilting. At night, Zayd would walk along the ramparts, watching the fires of the enemy camp below. Amin joined him, his usual laughter gone. They're too many this time, he said quietly. Zayd nodded. Yes, but victory is not in numbers, it is in hearts. He looked toward the palace. As long as Al-Hamra stands, our faith stands with it. Days turned into weeks. Hunger spread, but the people endured. Then one evening, a messenger brought word. The enemy was preparing for a final assault. Zayd gathered his warriors in the courtyard, where water once danced from marble fountains. He stood before them, eyes blazing. My brothers, he began, tonight, the gates of Al-Hamra shall hear the roar of battle again. The enemy thinks our silence is fear, but they forget. We are the sons of those who crossed deserts and seas, who built cities of light and knowledge. Let them come, and they shall find not a dying flame, but a fire reborn. The men shouted, Allahu Akbar, their voices echoing against the red walls. At dawn, the siege began. Arrows rained upon the towers, catapults thundered, and the gates shook under the pounding of rams. Zayd fought at the front lines, his sword a blur of silver. Amin's arrows flew beside him, striking enemies before they could reach the walls. Even young Rashid fought bravely, refusing to retreat. Through the smoke and chaos, Zayd saw the enemy commander leading his men toward the main gate. Without hesitation, he leaped from the battlements, landing amidst the attackers. The soldiers gasped. The Lion of Al-Hamra had come down himself. He fought like a storm unleashed. Every strike was precise, every movement filled with purpose. Blood stained his armor, but his spirit never wavered. Amin, from above, shouted, Zayd, behind you! Zayd turned, blocking a spear just in time, but the impact knocked him to his knees. The commander charged, sword raised high. In that heartbeat, Zayd whispered, La ilaha illa Allah, and rose with the strength of faith. His blade met the commander's, and with a mighty strike, he felled him. But even lions bleed. Zayd stumbled, his vision dimming, the world spinning in smoke and fire. He fell to the ground as the shouts of battle faded into silence. When the sun rose, the enemy had withdrawn, their commander slain, their morale shattered. The siege was broken. Amin found Zayd lying near the gate, his hand still clutching his sword. He knelt beside him, tears streaking his dust-covered face. Brother, we did it. You saved them, he whispered. Zayd opened his eyes weakly and smiled. No, Amin. Allah saved us. His gaze drifted toward the palace towers glowing in the dawn. Promise me, the children will know what we fought for. Not land, not gold, but the right to say La ilaha illa Allah with hearts unafraid. Amin nodded, his voice breaking. I promise. Zayd's eyes closed gently, his lips moving in silent dhikr. And thus, the Lion of Al-Hamra slept his last beneath the red walls he had sworn to protect. Years later, when Granada finally fell and the last call to prayer echoed through its marble halls, the people still whispered his name. They said that on quiet nights, when the moonlight touches the Al-Hamra's towers, one could still hear the echo of a distant roar, the roar of a lion who refused to bow. And carved upon the oldest wall of the fortress, hidden among the verses of poets, were the words Zayd once spoke before battle. Courage is not living without fear. It is fighting for truth even when the world stands against you. Moral: true bravery is not in the sword, but in the heart that fights for justice, faith, and honor, even when hope seems lost.